Jessii Vee, and yes, I'm still in my Halloween onesie. That is because today I'm only filming intro videos, as you saw in my last video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the dark side of the Monster High dolls and the Rainbow Fish book, which I'm sure we all grew up with. I definitely did. So it's gonna be two short videos merged into one. And if you did not see my previous video, yes, these used to be member-only videos, but I had to unfortunately stop that on my channel for technical reasons. My analytics were getting all messed up, really confusing stuff. But I wanted to make sure the members had these VIP only for a few months, and now that it's been a little while, I'm bringing them back onto my main channel. Before I get started though, don't forget if you would like a Halloween mystery box, I've linked them down below. It's almost Halloween, they're almost gone. And if you would like any other Halloween themed items, you could check out our website. We have so many things there, so everything is linked down below for you. But yeah, I hope you enjoy these two videos combined. Here you go. The topic for today's video is the Monster High dolls. For years and years, you guys have been requesting for me to make a video on this, so that's what I am doing today. So we're gonna be talking about some Monster High history, talking about the characters, and talking about some very strange things that have happened, and there is one creepypasta for you today. So we're gonna just jump right into this video today. Alright, so let's talk about the history. Monster High is an American fashion doll franchise created by Mattel and launched in July of 2010. The characters are inspired by monster movies, sci-fi horror, thriller fiction, and various other creatures. The franchise includes many consumer products such as stationery dolls, bags, keychains, various toys, and play sets. There has also been a book series that has been created, so there are a lot of things surrounding these dolls. In 2021, Mattel Television announced a new animated series and a live-action movie based on the franchise. And apparently these projects will air in 2022, so they're always coming up with new shows, new dolls, and new items. The story behind these dolls is that they are the teenage children of famous monsters, and they attend a school for monsters called Monster High in the town of New Salem. Now their stories are told through the TV series and the films, as well as through the diaries that actually come with the dolls. Now what's interesting is that the female characters are classified as ghouls, and the male characters are classified as mansters, which is quite interesting. The characters are generally the sons and daughters or related to monsters that have been popularized by fiction, which I actually find so fascinating about these dolls. They take after monsters that everyone knows from like the 60s, 70s, even earlier than that. The franchise's official website identifies 6 of the characters as original ghouls, so I'm just going to go through some of these characters. If you guys are familiar with this franchise or these dolls, you've probably heard of these or even own them, but for those of you who have never heard of this and don't know what this is about, I will briefly go through each of the main characters. And these names are hilarious, by the way. The first one is Frankie Stein, and she is the daughter of Frankenstein. She has white hair with black streaks. She is what is called a simulacrum, meaning her body is made of many different parts similar to a hybrid, but she has more than 3 or 4 monsters. So she's just like a bunch of stuff put together. Next we have Draculera, which as you can probably suspect is the daughter of Dracula. She is in a relationship with Claude Wolf. She is a vegetarian who faints at the sight of blood. She has fangs and typically dresses in pink, black, and white. Then we have Claudine Wolf, who is the daughter of a werewolf. She is described as furry, outgoing, and sweet. She has a bit of a temper at times when messed with, but can easily control it when coaxed properly. Her wolf ears are pierced in multiple places. Then we have Laguna Blue, who is the daughter of a sea monster. Laguna is from down under and speaks with an Australian accent. She can talk with water animals as well. Then we have Cleo Denial, who is the daughter of the Mummy. She is 5,842 years old at the start of the series. She is the captain of the Fear Leading Squad. Cleo prefers to accessorize with light gold bandages or mummy wrappings, and she is based on Cleopatra. Then we have Ghoulia Yelps, who is the daughter of a zombie. She is Cleo Denial's personal assistant. She is very smart, but can only speak a zombie language, which consists of moans and groans. She wears white glasses, and Ghoulia is absent from the 2016 2015 reboot. So let's talk about some of the recalls, because whenever I do like a creepy nostalgia series, I always talk about the things that have gone wrong. The first recall comes from 2015. It actually has to do with the Monster High Ghouls nightie due to a fire hazard. Apparently the label of this nightie did not include the fire hazard information, which is mandatory, so they were saying it's a giant fire hazard to anyone who wears this nightie. So people all over the world were freaking out. They had to return them to get a refund. But imagine having a nightie that's like a huge fire hazard. Why would they make something like that? I don't understand. It says that consumers should immediately cease using the garments. So that's pretty scary. Then we have a recall from 2013. This has to do with the Monster High motor scooters. It says the scooters can accelerate suddenly while in use, causing the rider to lose control and fall. So a lot of people were buying these scooters. The second they got on them to use them and press the power button, they would like fall off the back and injure themselves. So those are two things that were recalled pretty quickly. Then we have a creepypasta called the email. There was this rumor going around back in 2011 that people were receiving these strange emails in the early hours of the morning with the subject line saying, "It's all ruined." When they opened up the email, it was paragraphs and paragraphs of jumbled up words, as if someone was just typing random letters and numbers on the keyboard. There was also this photo attachment, and when you opened it, it showed a Monster High doll that had been torn to shreds. Her hair was pulled out, someone had stuck a pencil in her eye, her clothing was ripped, there was this black ink all over her skin. It was such a bizarre image to see, and it really scared kids who loved Monster High. At the very bottom of the email, after all the paragraphs of gibberish, it said, "Now that you've seen her, your life will be ruined too." A lot of people were getting this email. I think it's a creepypasta, but if it's real, that's definitely terrifying. If you've ever received this, definitely comment down below. But yeah, look out for an email titled, "It's all ruined." So creepy. Anyways guys, that is the end of this Monster High doll video. If you have anything else creepy to add, definitely comment down below. I'm going to be talking about the classic Rainbow Fish book that I feel like we all had as kids. So I'm going to be going into the history, the backlash that it got, and I also have a creepy story as usual. The Rainbow Fish by Marcus Pfister is a book that was published in 1992 about a unique fish with shimmering scales. Other fish admire him and request some of his scales because they want to share in his beauty. At first reluctant, Rainbow Fish eventually relents and finds he enjoys sharing his scales. Now this book became very popular very quickly back in the 90s. Like, I remember my parents giving this to me, and I made my dad or my mom read it to me like every single night. I loved it. It was my favorite book. I just loved how each page had that little shiny part on it for his scales. Now schools also loved this book because there were so many topics of discussion. Topics like sharing, beauty, happiness, making friends. But there were also a lot of people who did not like this book, and it actually got a lot of backlash from those people. Now I found this one Reddit user who went on a huge rant, so I'm gonna read what they said. "I read The Rainbow Fish for the first time in years. When I was in my single-digit years, it was my favorite book. It was the first real book I read, and it defined my childhood, as a lot of us can relate to. But now I realize it's about forced sharing. Rainbow Fish wasn't accepted by his peers because of a refusal to give away aspects of himself that he was proud of. The poor fish had no moral obligation to give away his scales, even if it was just one per fish friend. He ended up with one darn scale left. His happiness was false, stemming from the sense of belonging that came from being accepted by the fish to whom he gave his scales." This is so deep. "I have no doubt that Rainbow Fish would have lived a much happier life had his peers not ostracized him for such a superficial reason, forcing him into the belief that sharing his personal belongings was the only path to happiness. Those fish only maintained an air of amiability because they wanted his scales. Rainbow Fish was a victim of social greed." Wow, like I read that and I was like, that is so true. They took everything from him. Like, it's actually a really dark book when you look at it that way. Sorry that I was just reading off of my phone, but I felt like I had to read this word for word because it's just so, it's so correct. but like I could also see that it's still a fun kids book, obviously. Not everyone looks at this that deeply, but it's interesting to see both sides. So let's get into the creepypasta. So during my research, I found another Reddit user who had found this book as a kid at a garage sale for only 50 cents. Everything was fine at first, but whenever night rolled around, the cover of the book would literally start to shine in the darkness. And yes, the book is supposed to have like that iridescent paper on the cover, but it's not supposed to like glow in the dark, you know what I mean? So one night he decided to get out of bed and investigate the reason why it was glowing. So he took the book off of the shelf and sat on the floor. And he opened the book to the first page and saw that rainbow fish looked really different than he had remembered. Instead of being colorful, he was completely gray and his eyes were black and droopy. His whole body just looked really warped and weird. And each page that he flipped through, it got creepier and creepier. And he says that by the end of the book, the fish looked like a melted blob. And then the very last sentence of the book said, "They took everything from him." This is almost like the more realistic version of the book, I feel like, which is really, really depressing. Anyways, leave your comments down below on your stance on the book. And if you've never read it, you should. I love this book, but also now I think about it a little bit differently. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed these videos. That is the end of my member videos that I have now put on my main channel. I hope you enjoyed them, and yeah, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video.